PC cases just seem to get better and better every year. Gone are the yellowed plastics of the early 2000s, in with tempered glass and RGB fans, out with floppy disks and DVD-ROMs. And now we have the beautiful design of the Fractal North. We'll be exploring the features, build quality, design, everything here today. And like always, we'll be crafting a gorgeous PC worthy of the chassis. So strap in. Actually, don't. There's no need, because it's going to be a smooth ride. I think back to the first time I met your mum. It wasn't just the main body that caught my eye, it was the details. In this black version of the Fractal North, we have a beautiful decorative wooden front panel grille with a mesh panel behind. Alongside that are the gold accents on the feet and the front I/O. Attention to detail and flair. I expect nothing less from Fractal. They're my favourite case manufacturer right now. Let's tour the case and show you everything inside. FYI, I paid about £120 for this version. The panels are easy to remove. The top pulls off via this leather tab. The backside and glass side come off with two simple screws. If you need to remove the front panel, simply lever it out from the bottom. But if you're keeping the included 140mm fans at the front, there's no need to do this. The cable management chamber, like your mum on a weekday, gets no love. So let's check that out now. There is a standard power supply mount with a slide out dust filter in the bottom right. The shroud is perforated, so the power supply can be mounted fan side up or down depending on your setup. The insertion is via the back. You take off the back plate, attach to your power supply unit and slide in, and then fasten it with the exterior screws. In the bottom, we have these two storage caddies over on the left. They're held in with this single screw, which you can loosen and then slide the caddy out. You can mount a 2.5 or 3.5 inch drive here easily. In the leftmost caddy is the box with all the screws. The neat thing about having the two caddies laid low like this is that your power supply cables have plenty of room to be stuffed. Because they're separate, if needed, you can remove the right one to make room for oversized power supplies. Now a little up and to the right and we have this plate for 2.5 inch SSDs. Just unscrew here, slide out, attach your SSD and replace. For cable management, simplicity wins yet again. Perfectly arranged. Simple cable tie down points and Velcro straps are placed strategically throughout the chassis, making cable management really easy. The plugs here are USB 3, HD audio, front panel connectors, USB-C, which correspond to the front panel buttons on top of the case. There are these PWM cables for fan speed, which have a daisy chaining component to them. The rear of the case is fairly unexciting, but like the Fractal Torrent, the North has a heavily perforated rear panel, which is ideal for air-cooled systems. Whew, thirsty work. Now for the business end, the presentation side. Fairly standard actually. Space for ATX, MATX and ITX motherboards. There are decent cutouts for motherboard cables on the bottom and sides, however no dedicated cutout for graphics card cables, which is a little bit unfortunate. For fan support, there are two included 140mm fans at the front, or you can swap these out for a 360mm radiator with three 120mm fans. In the top, you can put 120mm or 140mm fans, you can put two of them, and for the rear there is a single 120mm fan mount. A 240mm liquid cooler will fit in the top, but it might be a bit tight with taller RAM. Clearances otherwise though are generous, 170mm for the CPU cooler height and 355mm for the video card length. Those of course can change depending on how you're set up with the radiators and additional brackets etc, but all that is to say, your gear is almost certainly covered. Dimensions are 447mm long, 215mm wide, 469mm tall, and it all weighs in at about 7.7 kilograms. This model today has a dark tempered glass side panel, however there are other versions with a mesh panel which allows you to mount fans or a liquid cooler to that side panel itself for a slightly different setup. And thus our tour is brought to an end. But there's so much more to see. I think this case is very stylish, in keeping with Fractal's design language as a whole. Given the almost relaxing nature of the chassis and its accents, I think a no RGB air-cooled build is the way to go. Roll the tape! I think this is the best value build out there right now. No compromise on VRAM thanks to the Radeon RX 6800's 16GB. Yes, it's not quite as fast as the RTX 4070, we know this, but it's about £100 cheaper and you get the longevity thanks to 16GB. This RX 6800 was only £430, which I think is incredible value, and it's a nice model in the Gaming Z Trio by MSI. As for the looks, I'd say this is a winner. No RGB is perfect for a minimalist or refined setup, or you can keep the subtle gold glow like I've gone for here. The wood panelling and gold accents give it a bit of flair, but without being too brazen. It's not an alpha, but it's not a beta. It's a sigma, if you know what I mean. The 5800X 3D still commands a decent price of £280, but because it's on AM4, you get cheap boards and cheap RAM, which is pretty nice. It's still an absolute champ and will allow for smart access memory as well. The downside is no upgrade path on AM4 now, but if we were to get an AM5 platform, we'd be paying through the nose for the board, the CPU and the DDR5. I really think if you sold this AM4 lot in a few years, then rebought AM5 as an upgrade, you'd still be better off as those newer components would then be cheaper, if you know what I'm saying. If you'd like to build it yourself, we'll be releasing a digital build guide of this whole process over on PC36.co.uk for a really affordable price, and it's going to be available worldwide, or simply buy the PC itself if you live in the UK using the discount code below. But enough of that. What of the performance? Let's talk about the 5800X3D and Thermalright Peerless Assassin. For £40, the cooler is well priced with nice build quality and performance. You'll have noticed that the temperatures are rather high in gaming and indeed in Prime 95. And that's not to say this cooler is no good, it's just the nature of the Ryzen 5800X3D. The cache is stacked, which reduces the effective transfer of heat from the CPU to your cooler. You can think of this as being IHS limited. Not a company, it means that we're being held back by the design of the cooling surface of the CPU rather than this Thermalright cooler. I've noticed similar temperatures on other builds with this CPU, including ones with 240mm liquid coolers, and you will only improve on these numbers with a 360mm or 420mm liquid cooler. Even then, don't expect this thing to stay really cool. If you want a quieter system, save yourself £100 and go for the Ryzen 7 5700X instead, as that will be a lot quieter, but of course not as fast. The pairing of the Radeon 6800 and Ryzen 5800X3D is certainly a winner, and I think it's a savvy pick for budget-conscious buyers who want a long-lasting system for 1440p gaming. You could save even more money, about £100 like we said before, by going for Ryzen 7 5700X instead of the 5800X3D. You'd not notice the difference in most games unless you like to play those highly competitive shooters, things like Warzone, where you need the highest FPS possible. The build process overall was very simple. Bog standard, really, and that is just what I want from a PC case. There's no need to make the process convoluted, just simple and functional. As someone who builds up to 100 PCs each year, the fact that there were no nasty surprises was appreciated, and I'm loving the build quality. The price is high, especially when there are similar performing cases for half the price, but what you're paying for is design, attention to detail and build quality. It's up to you whether that's worth the investment. I can't make that decision for you. Over to you. Tell me your thoughts. Have you ever used this case? Is there anything I missed or got wrong? Always happy to learn together. Until next time, bye.